Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Ula, and I'm here in the DMV area. Today I wanted to sit down with you and just kind of briefly go over the buyer consultation that I typically do with people who I work with. Now, before we get started, just a disclaimer. Sometimes people come up to me and they say, "Hey Ula, I want to buy a house," but then what they really mean is that they're thinking about investing and they found this great property. It's a great fixer-upper or whatever, and that's kind of where they're coming from. And then other times I have people who come to me and they say, "Hey Ula, I want to buy a house," but really what they mean is like, their kids moved out to college or they moved out or whatever, and they want to downsize or maybe they want to upsize. And so those are two very different conversations. Even though they're both looking to buy a house, we kind of go about it in different ways. Generally speaking, for people who are looking to buy a house and it's not for not an investment property, it's not a commercial property. This is for a residential, family home, apartment, whatever, for the person to live in. So just kind of wanted to put that out there to clarify any kind of confusions, because I definitely don't want to confuse people. If you're looking to buy commercial or anything of that sort, this is not what we're gonna do. But if you're looking to buy a house and this is for your dream home, this is for a house you want to live in, this is it's for you, it's not for investing or anything of that sort, then you're in the right place. And let's get started. So you reach out to me, you say, "Hey Ula, I want to buy a house," and we talk a little bit and I get to know more about what you're looking for. And so before we actually do anything else, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to get in touch with my lender. So I'll, call my lender, I'll have him reach out to you, you guys will talk, and he will get you pre-approved. Now, some people have, a lender that they know, maybe a sister, a brother, somebody they heard about, and that's fine too. You can reach out to them as well, get a pre-approval, and then I'll be in touch with them and we can work together. So that's completely fine. But generally speaking, before we do anything, we do want to get that pre-approval letter, because, just for so many reasons, you don't want to start your home search without a pre-approval letter. I won't go into why right now, just because I'm kind of on a time constraint, but generally speaking, that's going to be the first step. Once you have that pre-approval, we will know and figure out what your budget is. It will help us know that you can actually qualify for financing, and it will also tell us when we can actually close on the loan. So these are three really important factors that we need to have to establish before moving forward, or even continuing the discussion of buying a home. So once we get the pre-approval, which is the very first step, what we're going to do is we are going to sit down and I'll get an idea of what you're specifically looking for. 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, you want it to be countryside, or maybe you want it to be in the middle of Fairfax, or maybe you don't like Fairfax, you want to move out to Vienna or Woodbridge or whatever it is that you have in mind. We'll talk about it, and based on that, I will kind of do my research, and I will send you whatever listings I find that kind of match your criteria, and I will send that to you. And once you have found a couple that you like, we'll go out and we will tour those properties, and if you like them and they're exactly what you expected and what you wanted, then we will move on to the third step, which is putting together an offer. Now, when we're thinking about the offer, this is when we're kind of sit down and we will talk about how much we're gonna, offer in terms of price for the property. If we're gonna cover closing costs, or if we want help with that, we're gonna talk about when we plan on closing. So when we plan on actually getting the keys. And we'll just kind of go into all these different details and factors at that time. And then once we complete that paperwork, I will forward it to the other agent, and they will sit down with their seller, talk about it, and see if they're going to accept it or reject it. And so there's actually 3 different incomes that happen after we send our offer. Either the agent comes back to us and says, "Hey, we loved your offer and we're going to go ahead and accept it," and they're going to sign it, and then that's great and we're under contract. Or they're going to come back to us and they're going to say, "Hey, we kind of liked your offer, but we have a few adjustments that we want to make," and then they'll get back to us, and we'll just kind of go back and forth until we reach a mutual compromise where we're both happy. Or the third thing can happen, and this is all this is Typically not what I hope happens, especially, when people find, this house that they really like and we put our best foot forward, and then the seller comes back to us and says, hey, I'm sorry, I looked at your offer and I don't want it, I don't like it, and I'm accepting someone else's offer. So that can also happen. It's very demoralizing, but it does, unfortunately, it's part of the process. Now, in the case that we get rejected or offer gets rejected, we'll just go back to square one. We'll go house hunting again, and we'll try to find another property that we like. In terms of negotiations, and then they end up accepting our offer, then we're under contract. And if they accept right away, then we're under contract. When we're under contract, we have what's called a ratified contract, and that basically means that the buyer and the seller have, in writing, signed and agreed to the terms and conditions of the contract. So now we are binded legally. You have the house, you basically have it locked down, and there are very few ways to kind of cancel the contract at this point. So we're at a point where now we have our pre-approval. We found, the right property, and we have a ratified contract. So the next steps, essentially, we kind of want to just do a few inspections on the property. So I will kind of schedule some inspections, and we'll kind of go over the results from those inspections, just to kind of make sure that the property is in good, sound condition. And if there are any issues, this is when we're going to find out about it. So once we get those reports back, we'll go over any of the issues that arise. And if for whatever reason you no longer want the property, or you have, you're just hesitant and you're not sure it's worth it anymore, and seller doesn't want to fix anything, you don't want to fix it, and we just can't come to a mutual agreement about moving forward, then this is sort of the part where we can fall out of contract, and we can kind of go our separate ways and maybe go to a different property. Or if results come back and you like everything that you're seeing and there are no issues, which is mostly what happens, then that's great, and we continue moving with the process. So at this point, we got our pre-approval, we did our house hunting, we're under contract, we have a ratified contract, and we've done the inspections. So now we're at a point where we are just gonna sort of play the waiting game. And basically what I mean is we're gonna be waiting for the lender to do their appraisal on the property, in order to let us know if they're gonna lend us the money, if the property is worth that money and they're gonna lend it to us, or if it's not gonna appraise and we have to figure something else out. Typically speaking, for the I've never had a property not appraise. I don't know if I just maybe lucked out, or maybe I just don't have that much experience. I don't know. But it's very rare that you have a property that doesn't appraise, because typically speaking, as a realtor, when someone comes to me and wants to sell their house, I'm not going to list it at whatever price I want. I'm going to do my research, I'm going to look at other properties, and I'm going to list it at the correct price. And so for that reason, it's rare that you get these overly valued properties that don't appraise. So in any case, for the most part, we're just kind of playing the waiting game. We're waiting for the lender to send out an appraiser who goes to the property, looks at everything, and then determines how much the property is worth. Sometimes the appraisal comes in and the number that they give you is higher than what we offered. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's lower. Typically speaking, it's at that same price or higher. And so if it's at the same price or higher, then essentially that's a green light, and it means hey, we're good to go from the lender's side. And once we have that green light, we can go ahead and schedule our closing, and just kind of handle a few minor details, and that's pretty much it. We'll go to the settlement table and we'll sign some papers, and then you'll get your home keys. Now, this is kind of a rough, quick, brief overview, but for the most part, this is typically how the process goes. And there are definitely some minor things and details that we got to do, certain paperwork that needs to get done, or ordering homeowners insurance, or just things like that. But in general, I went over all the major kind of steps that we have to go through, all the major hurdles we have to get over. And then you have your keys, you're a homeowner. Congratulations. Now, before I let you go, I want to quickly address this question that I hear all the time, and for good reason. People are usually not concerned, but they want to know, like, how long does this process typically take? Now, depending on how things go, it can vary from a month to 3 months. And it also depends on how quickly your lender can close the loan. Typically, I would say it takes them between 30 to 45 days. I've seen it take longer, especially during that like house craze that we had, because, you know, like during the pandemic with interest rates and everything, some lenders were really backed up. But now I feel like we're at a point where, you know, if a lender says it's going to take me 45 days to close a loan, they typically, they do really well with, you know, staying within their deadlines and timelines and stuff like that. So yeah, so I would have that in mind. I would consider and think about, you know, I would say it will take you about a month to 3 months. And yeah, so that's all I have for you today. I hope you benefited from this video. Definitely feel free to share it if, you know, you think someone else might benefit from it. I'm available for any questions or concerns or anything of that sort. I will leave all my details on the screen, or obviously you're on my website. You can just go ahead and click that call button, or you can text me, whatever you're comfortable with. And I hope to see you in my next video, where I will be going over like the fees that are associated with buying a house, just all the costs, breaking them down, making sure you have a good understanding of what's going to financial things to be aware of when you're deciding to buy a house. And with that, I'm going to leave you to it. Hope you have a great rest of your day,